growing up in high school, I was like short, chubby, had braces, you know what I mean? I'm like 6'4" now, wasn't that tall. So it's like I had to have a great personality. You know what I mean? I knew I had to be a good person if I wanted people to like me, have friends, stuff like that. Cool. I get to college. Now I'm blessed with my growth spurt. I start to, come into myself. Now I'm more female attention. And I clung to that like it was, you know what I mean? Because I never experienced that in high school. I wasn't the, popular jock. You know what I mean? I had friends and I had a good name, and people like liked me, but it was for me, not for, the superficial stuff. When I got to college, I tapped into all the superficial, you know what I mean? And it was just like, cause I'm young, 18 through 21, nobody to tell me what to do. I'm away from home, and now I'm seeing the clout come from it, and I'm like, all right, like, but then I'm not realizing like how just like out of touch with like life that I was until I graduated, and I still kept trying to hang on to that college stuff, not realizing college is a facade. Like there's nowhere in the world where you will put thousands of teenagers and young adults with minimal like adult supervision in one place and just let them do whatever they want. It's not a thing, right? So coming into the real world and realizing like nobody cares about who I was in college. Nobody like, you know what I mean? So being able to have to make the switch and then figure out how to make the switch. So in order to do that, I had to go to therapy because there was just behaviors that I was exhibiting that I'm like, I couldn't tell you why I was doing some of the stuff that I was doing, right? And I could be vulnerable, how I was treating certain women and how I was moving on the weekends and just being like, for lack of better words, reckless with my life. Nothing that was gonna like put my life in danger, but I just knew it was more destructive than productive, right? So I had to figure out why. And shout out to my ex-girlfriend at the time. She said, like, if you don't go to therapy, I'm done with you. Fast forward, we're not together right now, but I respect her and I appreciate her to this day for that because I wouldn't be able to be who I am without her putting that pressure on me. So I had to go find out, like, yo, why am I doing what I'm doing? And then it just starts there, conversations, peeling those layers back. And it goes back to the childhood. And you'll see, like, after you start talking about these things, dots, start to connect. And you're like, okay, now it makes sense. Because a lot of us know these things, or like we know why certain things are happening, or we know the feelings, but we don't know how to articulate it, right? Or we don't know what that's called, or like we don't know that like like trauma responses or like just defense mechanisms from trauma. We have no idea that these are things, so we don't know like the triggers, for example. We don't know how to combat them because we don't know where they come from, why they start. So it was a process of figuring myself out first and why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then I mean, people are people. Like, we're all different, but a lot of us are very similar. So if I'm doing something for a reason and I see you doing similar behaviors, I can, deduce that you are probably doing it for a similar reason, if not the exact same, in context to your life. So being able to help others, I know I just had to help myself first. So I'm a very practical person, right? Like, I'll listen to anything you say, but I'm going to need you to tell me exactly how to do it. That's how I learn best, right? So you could sit here all day and be like, this is why you're doing this is why you're doing that. But if you can't give me the blueprint on how to get there, I'm probably not going to listen to you just because that's how I learn, right? So I needed like step-by-step instruction from her. Like, what am I supposed to do? What changes in my life do I need to make? What people do I need to stop associating with? How long should this be? You know what I mean? Like, I can't do stuff just for like, and then the expiration date just be, out there, TBD. I need to know, how long do I need to be writing? How long do I need to not talk to somebody? Like, she said, no dating, like, stay away from women for 6 months. Cool, I could do that. You know what I mean? I just need something like a solid baseline. So I knew that if I could do these things and be disciplined around them, I knew I'd still have to have conversations. But at the same time, if I can listen to her and create these habits, I know good habits, create good behavior, right? So from there, I'm able to then just like tie it into my regular life. You know what I mean? So like, for example, staying away from women for 6 months. It was like, all right, cool. Now I'm not trying to be that person who is tapping into this, superficial, using my clout. I'm not trying to put my time where it doesn't need to be, or like overindulge in things that I have no business at the time because there's more things I need to focus on, right? So just being able to create habit around my life, and then from there knowing that healthy behaviors just create a healthy environment. And then if I'm able to clean up my mind, everything else is gonna follow, right? Everything starts with your mind. Your business, everything I've done started with an idea. From there, turn it into action, right? So if I can just take care of my mental piece first and get that healthy, from there, everything else is just gonna flow. So I was able to communicate better. When I communicate better, stuff like you don't lose stuff in translation. People's like expectations of you are more solid. You know what I mean? Fallouts aren't as bad because now everybody's like intentions were known on the front end and stuff like that. So just seeing how much better situations in my personal life could be from taking care of all the private, I just knew that it was something that I just needed to do, right? So like not so much making sure I'm checking this dot and getting myself right, but just thinking long term, like for my legacy and my kids, how am I going to handle situations with my son or my daughter? And if I can take care of that now or as early as possible, the work's never done, but I'm going to be in a way better place when the opportunity comes where it's very, very necessary. I do get a lot of, with the stigma comes the backdoor praise, you know what I mean? Or like the closed door praise, I should say, which is fine. I get it, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like heartwarming, you know what I mean? To know that I'm using my situations and my struggles and somebody feels comfortable enough to see that and they're like, all right, maybe I don't want to tell them all about my life, all about my situation, but I could at least ask, or right, or like inquire about his experience. You know what I mean? Like one of my best friends, I won't say his name just because respecting his privacy, but he asked me like, "Yo, who's your therapist? I want to start doing this." We ended up going to the same therapist. He ended up finding out that she wasn't really for him, but it was a situation where he saw the benefit from it. He saw the opportunity where he could benefit from this. It just so happened that that person. It just so happened that that person wasn't the person for him, which is okay. You know what I mean? Not everybody's gonna mesh well. That's why multiple people do the same profession, right? But on the other end, like even my roommate now, like I'm extremely communicative. Like I communicate a lot, and I'm very vulnerable with how I feel about situations and how I feel I would handle situations, and things of that nature. So like he tells me all the time, like, bro, I learned from you. He doesn't go too much into it because I know that that's an area where he struggles. He doesn't communicate his feelings well. But just from the conversations that we have and then how he reacts afterward, I could tell that it's on a mental aspect that he's like, okay, I see that there's some things I need to work on, or there's some things that I could go to him for, right? But even then people just asking me like, how was therapy for me? Like, why did I go to therapy? And once I tell them that, they just have like I can see it in their eyes. They just have like so much more respect for me in that case, or like me being a black man. It's like, wow, like good for you. And it sucks that like people have that reaction, because like in all honesty, I went to UConn, predominantly white institution. Met a lot of kids who were white, and a lot of them have like family therapists. A lot of them have been going to therapy since they were kids. I'm like, bro, for what? Like, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, everybody has their own issues that they need to deal with, and who am I to question how you handle it, right? So just realizing that like that's a norm, and then in our community it's just so like out of the ordinary, or it's such like so out of left field that people kind of treat you differently. And not that I don't like the respect, but it's like, why is it that there's so like it's like a different level of respect, you know what I mean? It's like not so much like I could be as successful as I want to be, you know what I mean? And people are obviously going to respect that, and they're going to look up to me for that. But I could be in the position I am now, still figuring it out. But the fact that people see me prioritizing my mental health, they think I'm like, they put me on such a higher pedestal, and it's like psychological size. Now I'm such a bigger person to them, and it's cool. But at the same time, I think I'd like for that to kind of come back a little bit to where it is the norm, you know? One thing I make sure I do is if somebody asks me like, are you stressed? I'll be like, yes, I am stressed. Like, I'm feeling this way. I'm going through it right now, because nobody can help you, or nobody can at least extend you some grace if they don't know. You know what I mean? So to that point, like waiting until you're in crisis is like, that's the worst time to do it, because at that point now you're just looking for everything to just fix the problem. That's where people turn to substance abuse, situations like that, right? So making sure you're again, and it starts with just having this conversation, right? If I could talk about this right now, somebody hears this and they're like, wow, we have a really similar background. And I'm telling you right now, look in the camera. If you hear this, come talk to me if you need to. Because at the end of the day, like, what's 10 minutes out of my day to listen to you and then give you a slight maybe piece of advice from my own experience, right? From there, you either take it, you don't, but at least a lot of the times, you don't even need solutions. You just need to get it off of your chest.